Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and I'm so glad you're with us to stay curious inside the vehicle assembly building here. And wow, thank you for Pat Atkins for supplying this voluminous green screen here to Marty Winkle, my co-producer, for over 1,295 episodes, Marty. Hope you had a nice Memorial Day weekend. I did. I was quite busy as chairman of the, what am I chairman of? Flag and Memorial Committee here in the city of Titusville. So, that's a heck of a patriotic ceremony, Marty, the Memorial Day. And a lot of people lost what it really means. And we're honoring, we're not celebrating, we're honoring the deceased soldiers and that have kept America free all these years, so all these centuries, 2 centuries. So got involved with all that. How are you, Marty? What did you do over the weekend?
I didn't do a whole lot. I did play golf Sunday for the first time in almost 4 years. And did pretty well, so I was happy with it.
Well, good, good. All right. I played a few rounds of golf with you, so glad that you got that drive off the tee and didn't kill many worms along the way, huh?
No, I didn't kill anything. And matter of fact, I only played 9 holes, but I started with this. I finished the same ball I started.
Oh, right on. Good. Yeah, my knee's too bad to golf. I want to do it, but I got a knee replacement in my future here, so. Yep, Memorial Day weekend, hot as Hades here and stormy over the weekend. Not much for beach weather on the Space Coast. And, when I talk to some of my family and friends in Ohio and Tennessee and up in New England, kind of chilly across the fruited plain, everybody said. It was a chilly Indy 500 in the 60s. And so, but Memorial Day, I love the weekend. I love the what it stands for, and it's also a great kickoff to good summertime fun. So we're going to kick off some Stay Curious for another week here. Let me bring up my friends here so I can talk to y'all, and hope you all had a good time. Yep, we're going to reveal some Peenemunde Papers that came in the door this morning. I try to plan my days, and many of you around me know that people walk in the museum every day, and they're the most important people that I need to see that day, whether I have other people planned or not. And so talked to a gentleman that's trying to do a museum on the Shuttle up in Minnesota, and Ken Habicott, renowned collector, expert in so many things of collectibles. Ken and I had a visit today, about a 3-hour visit. Of course, he is one of our anchor sponsors for Shuttle Fest. And Mark Usiak's here in the building, as this is Astronaut Hall of Fame week. So we're going to feature last year's 2 Hall of Famers and who is it this year. So, Marty, if you're hanging around the Space Coast here, particularly on Merritt Island or over at Cocoa Beach, you might be gassing up your car next to an astronaut in their rental car, because there'd be an invasion of about 24 astronauts coming in to the Cocoa Beach Hilton over the weekend, and you bet I'm going to be there with bells on, thanks to the Caroline Shoemaker, the outgoing CEO and president of the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. So got some pretty pictures to show you, and none more beautiful than this sunrise. Where's the sun? Somewhere. Oh, it's not even behind me there. Our docent Pat Atkins has gone back on the payroll out there at Kennedy Space Center. He's got an office there in the VAB. And thank you, Pat, for sharing this photograph of before sunrise. Probably out there about 6:45, something like that. It makes it worth getting up to see these sunrises over the Indian River. That'd be the
ocean.
The ocean over there. Yeah, that'd be the ocean there. I was thinking Banana River, but that is the ocean. Jubilee, RG Jubilee, thank you for joining us. Gary Gerald, good to see you, young man. Greetings from Colorado to Mitch Rothman, and I owe you a phone call. And just to show you in a minute, I've been thinking about you. And it is a happy Tuesday to everybody. Fox Lake, Illinois, Steve Jokums and Robert Law is going to come back in January. Good. We're forewarned there. Tommy Usiak, your brother's in town. I certainly saw him already. And Tom Celentano. And Helene Milbert is listening in. Thank you, Helene. We're going to have Helene on the show Friday. Her father was D. Filippi. Donald D. Filippi was one of the first photographers out there worth their salt, photographing the rockets, a lot of them blowing up. But we're going to have Helene is writing a book about the photographers out there, Cape Canaveral, in the good old days of the 1960s. So looking forward to having you on, Helene, and sharing some of your dad's photography as well as how your project's coming along there. And Tom Usiak's helped her along with it. I've given her some advice that just ignore all that advice. You're doing great, Helene, there. So anyway, look forward to that. Maybe we're also Thursday will be a crazy mosh pit here with Chris Calley coming to town. Marty, you're picking him up at the airport, 8 in the morning. I think he's flying in real early. So give me a call and I'll meet you guys for breakfast somewhere when you come into town with his wife, Jackie. And, of course, Chris Calley, renowned space artist, will be showing his artwork at the Astronaut Hall of Fame. So we'll talk off and on about that all week. There's the beautiful VAB picture that Pat Adkins, who also helps me administrate on our Facebook page. And I wish Pat hadn't gone back to work, but when you can earn some extra walk-around money, get you some wham, all you can there, Pat. So, but boy, that is just really a snapshot of one of the most famous buildings in the world there. And then I'm going to show you a real cool picture here. Look at this launch. This was May 15th, okay. A Falcon 9 launch right before sunrise, captured by Braden Winch. Braden is a teenager, high school. He is one of the workers that we have here, training them here at the American Space Museum, thanks to CareerSource. And Marty, I told that young man he's interested in photography, and I said it's really being at the right place at the right time. Today's photographers don't know an f-stop from a bus stop on their camera, but that being there and at the right time, and that is an outstanding photograph, young man. Look at that beautiful liftoff as the sun's rising. It looks like Jupiter rising through the clouds up there. And so he showed me that over our break, having lunch together, Braden. Great job, young man. And I'll be putting that on Facebook for everybody to enjoy in our Facebook land there. So, and let's see, what else have I got there? Oh, yes, Mitch Rothman, though I forget to call you. I will here in a little bit when I'm driving over to Zarella's, as I think we're having a little get-together with USIAC and Carlton Bailey. Is CB on there yet? Nope. Don't see him on there, but we are sponsors of supporting Lunar Landing Day, Moon Day, on July 20th, when in 1969 Apollo 11 landed on the moon. There's Mr. Jim Tully, former mayor of our fair city, as well as great docent and very involved still in politics, giving a tour there to some people I didn't get to talk to. Don't know where they're from. So thank you, Mitch, for all you do to support the American Space Museum. He and his wife, Paula, have become significant financial supporters of ours, just like a bunch of you along the way, including Steve Jokums. And by the way, I needed a little camera to photograph our eBay that goes to Wi-Fi. And guess what? The Usiak brothers chipped in with Tom's wife, Vicki, also getting into her cookie jar money there and buying us this little beautiful little Kodak, indestructible, waterproof, exactly what we need to photograph our eBay objects up there. So thank you all the ways that you help us will not go unrecognized. So, well, we're at the tail end here of the last shuttles of the month of March, And did I not leave my, yeah, I got my little March folder over here. We're just going to talk about one mission today. Don't glaze your eyes over, as we had 10 beautiful shuttles in the month of May. Interestingly, Endeavour's maiden flight in May, STS-49, launched on the 7th in 1992. And then 19 years later, no, how many years later? 12 years later. Yes, 12 years later, in 2011, was the final flight of Endeavour, STS-134. We got a beautiful launch. STS-96 launched on this day in history. And a lot of you space workers call this the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful morning launches of all. Look at that beautiful shot there. 3 women, 4 men launched to an infant International Space Station in 1999. The spectacular sunrise launch of Orbiter Discovery launched this crew. It was 6:49 a.m., right about when the sun was coming up. Boy, there's a beautiful big plume shadow up above it there. Just outstanding picture there. And there's our crew. Let's see, in the back, well, let's get in the middle. Well, Commander Kent Rominger is on the far left, okay, sitting down. And this is his 4th of 5 space flights. Rick Husband is above my head here. He was pilot of this mission. And, of course, his next flight, he was commander of Columbia. Ill-fated re-entry, of course. And God bless Rick and all his family is from that tragedy over 20 years ago. Mission specialists were Ellen Ochoa. She's sitting there in the middle. First Hispanic woman to go to space, as well as the first Hispanic director at Johnson Space Center. That's their patch, very unique patch, very few triangles in the 135 patches there. It was a resupply. Well, it's actually, they called it a resupply mission, the International Space Station. Well, look at it. That's it above their heads there. The Zarya and Zebda module and Destiny module of the Earth there, of the America there on the left. And these modules are the core now. The Zarya and leak like a sieve, basically. They know documented leaks going on. Nothing to danger the crew. They had Space Hab in there, full science hardware that was to be integrated in the space station. Julie Payette. Well, in the back is Julie Payette next to Dan Barry. Yeah, Dan Barry. Big smile, EVA there. He and Tammy Jernigan on the right did an EVA, maybe a couple of them. Don't have the stats in front of me here. 10-day mission. All right. And next to Julie, and between her and Tammy Jernigan, is the Russian Valery Tokarev, his first of 2 missions. And this was Julie's first mission. And we love her. We see her out at the Space Center a couple times a year, real crowd favorite. She was like the vice president of Canada and got in a lot of trouble that may or may not have been part of her fault, but we won't digress into that. But actually, if we could look at the Discovery docked to the International Space Station, that's what it would look like. All right. Discovery much bigger than the space station at that time in 1999. And shortly after this, in November, we put the last crew up there to be continuously occupied up there. So, and we met Julie there. Like I said, there is Anita Truex over our gift shop and so much more with Connie McDaniel, getting their autographs up there with Julie. And she is just charming. Speaks 6 languages, soprano in a Bach choral choir in Ottawa. They won the equivalent to the Emmy Award up there. And in fact, she'll be out at the Space Center, Marty. Not the Space Center. She'll be hanging around the hotel and out the Space Center as part of Astronaut Hall of Fame days. Yes, sir. Go ahead and give me a shout out there with a question.
Not a question, Mark, just a comment that Julie was not VP, not vice president. She was governor general.
Governor, yeah, they don't call it Vice President Marty, but that's the equivalent in America to it. Yeah.
Well, I just figure if we have Canadians watching, they'll jump all over it if I don't correct it.
All right. Thank you for correcting me. All right. But whatever, she talked to the Queen. Her responsibilities was carrying on the Queen's duties and so forth. And she's talked about some of that there. So, Robert Law says he's got the same there. Yeah, the Unity module. I said Destiny, and I'm sorry, I meant the Unity, and on there. So there's Dr. Keith Sewell, astronomer at Arkansas up there. Another rainy day in Arkansas. Yeah, we're going to get hit with some bad weather the next couple of weeks, it looks like, and we also have this Sahara Desert dust in our air here that's going to start making our sunrises and sunsets a little more orangish with that dust, and that's what the hurricanes matriculate around too. So a week away from hurricane season, Marty, starting there. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Astronaut Hall of Fame. Bernard Harris and Peggy Whitson are going in. Bernard Harris, the first African American to do a spacewalk. He did 2 missions. Dr. Harris is very involved with the inner city kids in promoting space exploration. Peggy Whitson is our most experienced astronaut, woman or man, 675 days in space, and she's going up on an Axiom 4 mission as a commander. Second time she's commanded an Axiom mission, and with 3 rookies, Marty. Somebody tell me the launch of that. Do you know the launch, the hard launch for that? Carlton may know. I'll bet Steve Jokums knows. No, we don't all live at Zarella's. Some of them might live at Zarella's, but there's another 20 or so restaurants at Cape Canaveral, Cocoa Beach, particularly with seafood, like Florida Seafood Restaurant that I enjoy just as much as Zarella's. But after all, it's the fellowship that we enjoy a lot with John Zarella, his son Mike, doing an excellent job out there with pizza and all kinds of good Italian food. Question, Marty? Or comment?
There's a question from RG Jubilee. Where is Astronaut Hall of Fame going to be and the date?
The Astronaut Hall of Fame Museum is on the campus of Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex in the Astronaut Hall of Fame building that's got the Mercury astronauts on the side just as you come in. And they've got a lot of Mercury paraphernalia in there. They've got a recreation of the Mercury Control Center, lots of artifacts from the astronauts, but then they've got these beautiful lucite backlit portraits of all the inductees in there. We'll give you a show of that later this week on there. Now, it's going to, the celebration is split up into 2 areas. The actual induction will be underneath Atlantis. The public is invited to see that with their KSC ticket. Not sure what time that is, Saturday, usually around 11 o'clock. But the party's at the Cocoa Beach Hilton, at Cocoa Beach, and the same hotel that we've booked for Shuttle Fest. So the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation, founded in the, I think, 1989 by the original Mercury astronauts to provide education for students, and they've given millions of dollars away. They have some talks going on at the Hilton, a couple panel discussions, and then a nice little cocktail party on Saturday after the festivities underneath the Kennedy Space Center Atlantis building. Or Marty, do they have the dinner out at the Saturn V building? I don't know many details about
The
it.
dinner is underneath no, wait a minute. No, that's in the Saturn V building, isn't it? Or am I way off?
I think they have the dinner at Saturn V building,
Yeah, and that's where the,
but the induction's under
Saturday.
Atlanta, so.
but the induction ceremony is I believe that's Friday, isn't it? Friday morning?
I'll find out from Mark. No, Thursday night's the cocktail challenge at Zorella's. That's a big blast. So, like I said, I'm not as prepared today as I should have been with all that's been going on around me today, including rain. Carlton Bailey says it's June 8th at 9:11 a.m. All right, what day of the week's June 8th, Marty? He's going to look that up for me. Thank you, Steve Jokums there. The dinner has historically been at the Saturn V Center, says Mitch Rothman. Sunday. Doggone it. We're not open on Sunday. All right. Maybe we will be with a 9 o'clock in the morning launch. Of course, everyone will be leaving to go to church after the launch, right? So 9/11, that'll be interesting. Of course, that is a fast 9/11. It's an instantaneous launch when they go to the International Space Station, and they'll be trucking up the coast of America. So some of you might be able to see that on Sunday morning, June 8th. So now, is Peggy Whitson going to be at the Hall of Fame induction? No, she's under quarantine right now. But will they do something remotely with her? Yeah, they're NASA. They ought to do something. Be able something technically to bring her in and induct her there. But she's going to space for these Axiom flights are around 10 days. They're scouting out what they need to do to build Axiom Space Station attached to the International Space Station. It'll be over by the Kibo module, and then they will they're way behind on that. They were going to do a module a year, and then in 4 years be able to break off with their own power supply and have a space station functional when the International Space Station is deemed unworthy of flying and comes down. They're saying 2030, so we'll see. So here's last year's inductees: David Hilmer and Marcia Ivins. And there you get an idea of the plaques in front of them there with their missions. Each one had five. Hilmer's had 4 missions. Marcia had 5. They get a big medallion around their neck. There are all of the astronauts inducted who were at the party there. I see Eileen Collins on the far left in the back row there, and Scott Altman's right behind, in front of her. Though you might scratch your head at some people are in and others are out, it'll be a matter of time before the right ones are all in. They're only taking 2 a year now, okay, and you're allowed on the ballot so many years, and then if you don't make it, then you're not eligible anymore. And I'm not going to get into that. It's the voters are board members, astronauts, and such that are involved with that. I know Bob Seek, launch director, has been involved in that process, and sometimes sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you promote yourself, you have a better chance of being in the hall than if you just are like a real humble guy and don't really promote it. So we're looking forward to that. We'll find out and tell you more about it. There's David Hilmer's in space on one of his missions. And of course, we got to show Marcia with her epic hair up there. She still wears it very, very long. And I got it last year hanging out at the Hilton. Ran into the 2 of them and said, could I please have a picture? And they're most happy to oblige. Marcia, I said something that we do a video podcast that I'd love for you to see. And she said, I said, we focus a lot on the space shuttle on our video podcast. And she said, you need to. Good. Because NASA Channel doesn't play enough things about on the NASA TV channel about the shuttle era. And so maybe they're correcting that. But there's David and Marcia at last year there. E. Lee Wilson's going to be there. He's going to be at the Art Gala event Friday evening to benefit the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. You can pay $25 and come off the street and check out the artwork of E. Lee Wilson, as well as our good friend Chris Calley. Not sure who else is going to be there, but I'll be there checking it out there.
Ron Woods.
Ronnie Woods is going to be there. Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure about that. Steve Jokim's got a tour by Dr. Harris's sister-in-law, Brenda. Did a level 9 tour of Johnson Space Center in 2018. Good for you there. So, and just to remind us that we do have a lot of fun, there's Marty with Rick Mastricchio. I want to say Mastracchio, but I think it's Mastricchio. Just a good old American name there. Rick, of course, I think at 3 missions he went up on the Mir space station. He didn't go to the Mir space station. He's on a Soyuz spacecraft, rather tall for that. And there's Chris Calley there, our buddy with Marty. That was at the Cocktail Challenge last year, and everybody had a good high time. You better believe it at Zarella's there. So, Rick, look forward to seeing you. He could be a Shuttle Fest astronaut someday, Marty. So let's talk a little bit about the end of our program here. Thank you all for watching. Hi, Cliff Watson, just in time. Yep, Nikki Stott will be there too with her artwork. Thanks for reminding us about that. Oi, Cliff, says Steve there in Pomona, Australia, waking up to Wednesday morning. So, Ken Havicot's on the left. The wonderful photographer Mark Usiak in the center there. I got my board back up, Marty, to fill up our Stay Curious guests up there, so feel free to put somebody up there. But so Ken, of course, has been, he's one of the world's premier experts in memorabilia of space, autographs, patches. That's the hard stuff to really figure out. And we were going to have a little meeting today, and he came in and he said, in fact, Marty, he bought your sprig, your suspension thing that was out there at MLP2, and some other things he got at our last auction. And he said, Mark, look at this. And I go, what is this? And he throws out there this paper that was like parchment paper, because it was obviously typed by a carbon, all right? And what I'm looking at here is some part of history. Oh, and I didn't grab that other part of history. Okay. I love it when things come together. I said, I was just looking at space history, Ken, for May 27th, 1945. And it says at the Mark Wade Astronautics page on May 27th, 1945, pertaining to launch vehicle V2, Americans recover 14 tons of V2 documentation in Germany. The German rocket team provides directions to the Americans to the mine in the Harz Mountains, where they've hidden the technical documentation taken from Peenemunde, the famous rocket center of the Nazi war machine in Germany. All right. Now, Ken thinks that what you're going to see is part of this booty that was given to us when von Braun and over 100 German rocket scientists surrendered to the Allied forces. They could have easily surrendered to the Russian forces, okay? But they had a hunch that they'd rather be with the Americans. And Russia did get some of the rocket people of Germany, but not the cream of the crop like we got. So this is a part of this historic find, and Ken says this is extraordinary to find this. He has some circumstances of very legitimate of how he came into possession of this, and he has people around the world working on it, because it's hard to see the faint little check marks on this, but there's some pencil check marks there. And up at the upper right-hand corner is Dr. von Braun's handwriting. And this is interpreted as a, oh, I didn't grab a sheet of that. This is the English version of this here. All right. And it talks about a secret rocket. And this was probably papers of a rocket launched in 1943. There is von Braun's signature. He didn't sign like that when he came to America anymore. This was his early signature that he did. We don't know yet who the other signature is on there, but as you see the German on there talking about things that were done, there is the actual photograph of this rocket being launched. It is a beautiful 5x7 from 1943. Okay, you're talking 82 years old, this image, and it doesn't have a bit of foxing or fixer stains or anything like that. That is one of the most pristine photographs I've ever seen of the launch of a V2 rocket. And on the back, it's authenticated, okay, that it is what it is. Isn't that cool, Marty? I wish I forgot to print out the English part of this to tell you some of what it said. But, and these charts are in these, like 6 pages of this, worth thousands and thousands of dollars. There's the vehicle profile on a graph there. V31. And there's another graph showing some of the data that was come back from it. All right. You just don't hold these things like this in your hands every day, Marty. Look at that. I don't know German. I can't understand what it really means, except you know what it means. It's the height of the rocket going up into space there, and in a real document that Werner von Braun had his hands on. All right. And what he would do he had a very light pencil that he would check off things. He didn't write too many notes on anything, but items that he would check off, he wanted more investigation into. I've read about him. He had a very interesting way about him as a rocket genius. He loved to stay up all night, go to bed at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, get up at noon, all right, while his rocket factories were going on in Huntsville, Marshall, all that stuff going on. He would, working sort of that midnight shift, he would allow other workers to do their work, and then he could analyze it when he got up in the morning about what they did the day before. And I have seen several things that von Braun handled in very meticulous detail, very small handwriting, like I said, a series of check marks. And then he would require his engineers to report the next day how they had progressed the previous day with the tasks and updates and so forth that were given at the time. Anyway, Robert Law said he met Ken at Shuttle Fest, and y'all walked by him if you didn't get to talk to him, and his lovely wife, Teresa. Yes, a question, Marty.
You have a question from RG Jubilee. Is that the green screen room that you're filming this scene right now? I think he's thinking maybe in the VAB, or is that the green screen?
The green screen, is that the
It's
green screen room that you're filming the scene right now in that picture? Okay.
I think when we opened up, Mark, my mic's not working. When we opened up, you were looking around like you were inside the VAB.
Yeah.
And I think maybe he's thinking he may be in the VAB.
Oh, no, no, we're not in the VAB. I'm pretending I'm in the VAB on this green screen here. We'd love to be in the VAB someday doing a Stay Curious program, and maybe we will. Neil 1030 hadn't shouted out to you, seeing if he's corrected me on anything. He's another one of our dozens of intelligent space lovers that are here on a regular basis, enjoying this bit of social time on a Tuesday, seeming like it's a Monday, like it might everybody on this long Memorial Day holiday weekend. And so I think I said hi to Doug Forrest, hadn't said hi to Dougie. Hope that you're doing well there in Los Angeles. Dave Steggy. Hello, excuse me, I'm yawning a lot here, don't know why. Gary Gerald, like I said, Robert Law, Mitch Rothman. I'll be giving you a call here as I'm headed over to Zarella's for some food. Hope they have lasagna, Jokums, but they don't make that every day. So great. Well, there you saw some rare documents that I didn't anticipate showing you all. Let's take another peek of that there. Real German rocket documents here. What can you say? And worth a small fortune. And that's what Ken Habicott does, is he pays a little bit for some things and passes it on for you to you for a little bit more. And he asked me not to say exactly how much that does cost, but it's pretty substantial. Not six figures, though. Maybe a whole pack of those would go six figures, but definitely probably five figures on that. So thank you all for watching today. And we'll dive into some space history the rest of this week. Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to have, tomorrow I'll do some space history. Thursday, we'll have Chris Callion here to talk about some of his new art that he's done. He's got a wonderful new Hubble Space Telescope image he did for Shuttle Fest. He's got some Eileen Collins montages that look beautiful. And we'll just catch up with Chris as well as see what other hangers-on groupies that he has come into the set of Stay Curious on Thursday. And Friday, Helene Milbert, we will talk about your dad, Don DeFilippi, one of the early photographers out there at the Space Coast. And she was a child of the early days out there. So just a mere child, Helene is. So we'll get her in here, and you'll enjoy that conversation a lot on Friday. So until next time, I'm thanking Marty Winkle for a wonderful job over there, and thanking all of you for watching. Because I'm Mark Marquette, and I seriously take it as my pleasure to do this every day to simply bridge the space between us.